Welcome on to this episode of the Faster Beyond 50. My name is Brad Nadalt. We've got the coach Lindsay Parry with us today. And today we've got a very special guest joining us. We head to North London to catch up with one of the members of the Coach Parry Faster Beyond 50 community. Got a pretty cool story to share and going through some struggles at the moment. We're going to see if we can help him along the journey as he heads towards the New York Marathon. Before we get into that though, Linz, nice to catch up. Things going well your side as we head closer to Berlin for you?
Yeah, 100% can't complain. Look, had to have an attitude shift and just like everyone listening to the podcast, I've just had to accept that I'm getting slower, and I need more recovery. So yeah, no, working hard, change a lot of my eating habits, definitely change my sleeping habits, and change my training habits. So that's what the podcast is about. And I'm now walking the walk, as they say, Brad. And I've got to say that I'm starting to enjoy running again. I was in a bit of a dark hole not so long ago.
Yeah, definitely in the thick of things as you build up to Berlin. I've officially started my Cape Town Marathon training plan. So we are both training for marathons after my little hanging out on the dark side after Comrades. And our guest today is also training for a marathon in the Big Apple, the New York Marathon. And it's a great pleasure to welcome onto the podcast today, Stephen Moon. Stephen, welcome onto the podcast. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys. Yeah. It's 97 days to New York Marathon, not that I'm counting.
As we recall that 97 days to one of the world's majors. Beautiful race. Lindsay's run it. I haven't been lucky enough to run it. We're going to be talking lots about that as well. But before we talk a little bit about the training, tell us a little bit about sort of how you got into running. You told us before we started recording that you're not really a runner. I know you do come from a bit of a cycling background as well, but you've had a couple of big crashes of late, and now you've got the running bug has bitten. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I used to run when I was a youth. So and then around about 40, I got a couple of knee problems, and I got that tired old advice from a consultant orthopedic surgeon who just said, "You're too big to run, give up." So I stopped running around about the age of 40, and I took up cycling seriously. And actually, I've cycled since I was a kid. So I managed to cycle for 50 years. 50 years without a scratch, and then in 2023, in May 2023, I was competing in an event here in London called Ride London 100, and somehow an e-bike got on the course and went out of control, and a rider hit the ground in front of me. I hit the rider and spent a couple of weeks in intensive care. The story doesn't end there, actually, but I'll come to the second part. Yeah, so I was in intensive care. I had 15 fractures and a punctured lung. And after that, I started to think about running. And I actually visited the New York Marathon, which again, I'll mention later. I met a very inspirational guy. Anyway, so, and then 11 months later, after 50 years without a scratch, I was going to have my last big bike ride before starting to train for New York Marathon, and holy heck, I fell off again. And this time I ended up in intensive care in Girona in Spain with 12 fractures and a brain bleed. So I managed to go from 50 years accident-free on the bike to 27 fractures, a punctured lung and a brain bleed in 11 months. So safe to say all my bikes went on eBay and got sold. And then I invested. Then I thought running was a cheap habit, and I invested a lot of money in running shoes and running gear. And I suddenly find that running isn't as cheap as you think either.
No, the falls are a bit less high impact, though. That is for sure when you're running. But that is incredible.
Yeah. And the cost of the shoes is spread out. But after 3 or 4 years of running, you probably bought a bike. So yes, it's not
weirdly, I actually did it. I'm not really a maths nerd, but I did a calculation. I went, this is what the wear on my shoes is supposed to be. This is when you're supposed to replace them, and therefore it's 60 pence a mile. And that's actually, if you do the sums, if you buy a pair of gel Kayanos in the UK and then do the ideal mileage and divide it, it's 60 pence a mile for your shoes. which was quite a shocker, really.
That is too
Yeah.
funny. Tell us a little bit about the inspirational story that made you decide you wanted to run the New York Marathon.
Yeah, I used to work in sports nutrition, and we were one of the sponsors of New York Marathon in 2023. So I got to go over there, and I got to sit in some fancy VIP area near the finish line. I was recovering from an accident at that stage, and I sat in the stand, and I ended up sitting there for hours. So I watched the quick people come in. And then I watched the 3 hour people come in, and I just sat there and I'd been fascinated by the story of Tommy Rivs, who's the American ultra runner who got what was supposed to be terminal lung cancer, and I knew he was out on the course, and I was sitting in the stand still feeling a bit stiff from 15 fractures, and I knew this guy was out on the course, so I thought, I'm going to sit and wait. And I did. I sat and waited, and I think it was 4 hours 41 I've got in my head. Tommy came in at 4 hours 41, which I thought was incredible given the guy being on death's doorstep. And I looked at him cross the line, and he bent over and put his hands on his knees. And at that moment, I went, I'm going to run this marathon. So yeah, that's actually, and because we were in, I was sort of had some involvement commercially with New York Marathon. I was able to finagle an entry. So it was actually seeing Tommy Rivs come over the line for me that was, I'm going to do that. And I'd seen a lot of other inspirational people, and I'd seen some people who I would regard as my age, like, and I'd seen those people finishing in reasonable times. I thought, well, listen, I can't do the bike anymore, but I need a challenge. So that's how I ended up signing up for it.
Awesome. And you posted in our forum. It's about a week ago that you posted a forum. It was quite a raw, honest post. And you sitting in a situation now where you're thinking, I might need to give up on this. And tell us a little bit about what's going on sort of in your running. And I know you've got some questions for Lindsay, and I'm sure Lindsay will have a few questions. But what's going on that's got you in this point now where you less than 100 days away from New York? The plan was to do it, and now you're thinking, you know what, maybe I don't have it in me.
Yeah, it's well. I mean, firstly, I would say that I signed up. I signed up to the Coach Parry service last September, so I'd now recovered from my second accident. I thought I'm going to give New York a go, and I found it tremendously. I found it tremendously helpful. Firstly, I've got access to any sort of training plan that you can think of, and I actually track through them. I started with a 5K plan, and I'm now on a half marathon plan, which this week's the last week, and so I found it incredibly useful that there was a lot of advice there. But I also found it equally as useful, if not more useful, that there is a forum for runners over 50, and I'm well over 50. I'm 68 now, so you might need to start one for really ancient people. But I found the practical running advice. This is how you do it. But then the fact that I could then go on this forum and ask any question, and you get other members will respond, but also you've got this team of really, really competent and committed coaches. So I can put a question on there, which can be the dumbest question ever, like which foot do I put my shoe on? And then you'll get a really, really qualified coach who'll come on with just a nice piece of advice that you need right there and then. So for me, the whole thing has been tremendous. So I went 5K program, 10K program, something else program. I'm now on half marathon. I had a bit of winter flu that stopped me, but I've just kept plodding on. I've just kept plodding on and making progress. But I've got some real gems, and the one for me, and I guess everyone over 50 will smile, because I guess we all have to go through it. I hadn't figured out how to slow down, and it was only when the coaches, Devlin and whatever, said slow down that I thought, whoa, yeah, now I get it. And even not only slow down, but every couple of kilometers walk for 90 seconds, and yes, since then my running's really it's really improved. Slowing down has sped me up, really. Yeah, sped me up. I had to do the nerdy bit again. After saying I'm not a nerd once, I now did another nerdy bit. What's the average finishing time for a 65 to 69-year-old in the world's major marathons? And the answer is 5 hours 45. And
Nice.
and then I figured out the pace that I think it was Devlin, because all the coaches have been great. I think the pace he set me was when you work it out, including the walk, it's 5.5 hours. And I thought, bang, I can probably do this now. You know, if I can do this slow plod and walk every so often, I can probably finish in an average time. And an average for a guy who's been through what I've been through would be more than a victory.
I love that.
Yeah, that's where I'm up to. I mean, yeah. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I got to where I am right now.
Yeah. Stephen, you did say before Lindsay jumps in, but you did say in the post that you're not sure what body's going to pitch up on.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I think a lot of us can resonate. I've been joking with Lindsay this morning that I feel like my body's about to pack up, and I'm just on 50.
It's an absolute mystery. It's an absolute mystery. So, I mean, I even got a rap over the knuckles from Coach Devlin one day, because I'd set off running, and at 4 kilometers, I thought, I don't feel too good. And then at 10 kilometers, I thought, I feel really good. And then I run my first ever half marathon, and I could have kept going. And then when Devlin found this out, he said, you're supposed to increase your mileage 10% a week, not just like do an extra hour. My program was, I just kept running. And to be honest, I could have kept running, but then some days, I think a couple of days before I'd written that post, I set off, and I had it in my mind I could do maybe 20k, and I got to 15k, and my body just gave up, and I can't describe it. It wasn't going to cooperate anymore. And yeah, I mean, I guess you can figure out from the way I've bounced back from some fairly major physical injury and pain that went with it. I don't sort of wimp out, but a couple of days my body's just gone. I'm not having it, and I can't even pick the day. So I can regularly run the half marathon distance now at my plodding pace. But some days, 15 kilometers, boom, forget it. And I took my biggest fear is actually flying to New York, turning up, and on the day of the marathon, my body goes, yeah, it's a 15-kilometer day today. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah, and look, and for me, that's kind of maybe not a bad place to jump in. And it's always hard on our bad days. We never want to make too many decisions on our best days or our worst days. That's the reality. Your best days, you will get yourself thinking you can do 4.5 hours for the marathon, and you'll go out, and that'll be maybe not terminal, but it'll certainly make for a horrible day. And on our worst days, you'll be like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. But the good news is, I think the best piece of news is that there's no part of me that goes, Stephen's not going to finish New York. Okay. So I firmly believe that you can, and you will finish New York. Your body has been through a lot, so we don't want to, we have to acknowledge that. And you are having some consistent recovery challenges. So it's not just that 15k day that's bad, but that 15k day could well just be the culmination. And you figured out for yourself already that 3 days a week, more than 3 days a week of running is too much. And it probably, if we had to go back through since September, I think 4-day weeks would possibly just have the 15k days happening more often.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, and we can work with that. Like, that is really not a problem. One of the questions that you've asked is, would watt biking help? And it would help. Is it necessary to get you across the finish line? No, I think we can work with the 3 days a week of running and the 2 days of strength. We could certainly try the watt bike, because if it works, it will help. But we've got to make sure that you are recovering well. And I think that's kind of where I want to to drive this with you is that I think that you need more recovery than most people with a similar training history. So, okay, you don't have the running training history, but you've got a big training history. So you definitely need more recovery. That could very well be linked to those two massive accidents and what your body has had to do to come back from that. And you are doing the strength training, which I just think come marathon day is going to be a huge advantage. And then there are kind of two things that I would change specifically for you. We have to focus on and track your recovery and make sure that you're recovering well enough, because the fewer 15K days you have between now and New York, the better it's going to be for you mentally. The second thing that and the things I'm talking about now are psychological. We'll have other things that we'll talk about. But the second thing that we have to do for you is we got to just build you up differently. Okay. And that ties into the recovery. So instead of going 21, 23, 25, 30, we've got to, over these weeks, split it out so that we kind of go 2 forward, 1 back, 2 forward, 1 back, build that slower so that you get far enough on one single run, far enough that your brain is like, cool, I can do that. But then what I want you to remember always is that day that you ran the half, which you shouldn't have. You felt awful at 5, you felt great by 10. And I think by the time you get to New York, that's what you've got to hang on to, is that if by some very poor twist of luck, you end up having a 15K day at New York, you slow down, you take a step back, you walk a little bit more, you take in a bit more nutrition, because you will get through that period and have a good run. Do I suggest you do that in training? I don't, because I think that day is actually a day your body's telling you, I just need a little bit more recovery. But on race day, I'll be like, no, slow it all down, get through it, it'll pass, you'll achieve what you need to do, and you can recover after the day. So I think that's the answer. Whether I think you can do it or not, absolutely. And so we can unpack some of the practical stuff for sure, Brad. The things that are at your advantage are that you have done hard things. Now I'm not just talking about your accident, of course, but you cycled for 50 years, so you've done some hard things. So you know what that's like when you get to race day. You are committed. You've built up over a long period of time. You are getting some aches and pains, but as a rule, you haven't experienced injury. So you've built up in a way. You've done your strength training, and you've kept like a major debilitating training injury from cropping up. So these are all things that are playing in your favor. You worked for a nutrition company, but offline you made a comment around you just haven't figured out your this running and nutrition. And I feel like that's another corner that could probably really help you with your recovery and push out these 15K days a little bit.
I mean that's all very helpful. Yeah, that's all very helpful. Anyway, I'm sure a lot of your over 50 clients talk to you about recovery. I've always, even on cycling, I used to cycle some big events. In fact, I've done the cycling event, the cycling equivalent of the New York Marathon. It was one of my toughest ever days on the bike. I've always found recovery hard anyway. I don't know why. I think I'm not naturally athletic, and I think whenever I'm out there, I always do a bit more instead of a bit less. So I've never really learned to do a bit less. So recovery's been hard, but once you get past 55, and then certainly once you get past 60, I mean, it's almost all about the recovery, and I'm not the best student at that. I don't know why. You know, when I've looked at sometimes the training programs had a delog week, and I thought, oh, I feel really good, and I've cracked on throughout the delog week. For a guy of my age, I just need to grow up a bit, you know. So I need to get the recovery right. The other thing that I'd have to mention in everything you've said there, which I thought was real wisdom, I think it's Coach Devlin and Nikki. They've put I think just do these 3 mobility exercises, a YouTube video, and that's become my religion. I've done that over the last few months, and I've gone from stiff as an ironing board and all the aches and pains hurting into, I mean, touch wood, I might even be able to do the splits this year, and it's just three simple exercises, and it sounds small. But it's been massive to me just doing those 3 exercises, and I've added a quad stretch on as well, just to help with knee problems. Absolute game changer. So recovery, yes. The mobility's been massive for me. I mean, you, Lindsay. I think you're the guy out of all your team who stresses strength most. I've done the strength training throughout, and some weeks, if I've had to miss a workout, I would miss a run rather than miss a strength workout, and that's been a massive difference. And I guess we'll end up talking about nutrition. For a guy who's worked in it for decades, I can't believe that I sometimes get my nutrition wrong. It's embarrassing.
I always joke, Stephen, that like doctors' kids are always sick, mechanics' cars are always broken, and it's the same thing.
I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I mean, here's a silly story, and I should be red faced from now till next month. So over the last few months, in sort of thinking about the marathon, I've actually dropped 11 kilograms in weight. So I'm 6'5". So I'm a big old unit, but I've actually now got down to 99 kilograms, and obviously you reduce calories, and to do so. And I only realized just literally this weekend, I've been going out and I've been fueling perfectly. Here's me gel, here's me chew, I've got that, and I'm still feeling tired. And it's so obvious. I mean, hit me over the head. So obvious. But I wasn't fueled enough when I stepped out the door. So I'm going out the door with not enough fuel in, and I'm fueling perfectly, and I'm still feeling tired. And then you can't make it up on the course. Once you're out there, you can't just have an extra gel and think you're all right. So even that kind of thing, my overall diet, I'm probably going out the door 500 calories light, you know, which is just a recipe for disaster.
No, totally. And I mean, if you do want to still lose a little bit more weight, but not have it impacting on the performance, probably going out the door at 200, maximum 300 calories light, and then fueling for your exercise. That's so. Look, that's encouraging though, because it tells me you're not far away from the mark. And at least you're aware of, you've worked in the industry, so you've got a little bit of an idea of what it is you should be doing. And I'm chuffed to hear that you're working out what you need and you're going out the door. So effectively your solve is fairly easy. You can either feel a little bit better between the runs, so you just increase your calories slightly, or carry on with your diet is the way that it is, but then during exercise, you don't quite double up, but you certainly 1.5 times what you think you need is what you take. Because that'll make a big difference. So like from my point of view, as you've been going through this journey from September, and specifically on the half marathon plan now, where obviously the volumes have gone up. I know there's no real predictability to the 15K day, as we've now taken to calling it. But is there a noticeable difference in how tired you are, or how long you feel like it takes you to bounce back between harder runs, longer runs? Can you pick up any kind of pattern there around what?
Yeah, I don't. That's a decent question. Yeah, I'd never thought of it in that. I I actually bounce. I actually bounce back pretty quickly, and from a good run or a bad run. If you really press me, I'd say if I have what I call a long run, which is a long way short of running a damn marathon. If I have what I call a good run, I'd recover quicker. But even after a bad run, I find myself recovering quickly. As long as I get, as long as I sort of, as long as I refill the calorie bank when I get home, I tend to get some protein and carbohydrate down quickly when I get home. But yeah, I don't. If I've had a bad run, I don't sort of drag around for 3 days. I bounce back fairly quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder if it's psychological. You've had a bad day, and was it in my head? Because next day I can feel pretty okay.
Look, it is, and that's normal. So this is the thing. Like, people often, oh, it was mental, and they think you've got a soft head, and it's not the case. We just have that's part of being human. Um, so look, I mean, just the conversation has made me more encouraged that you can do this. Okay. I mean, I'd just for my own interest, I'd gone and had a look and gone, okay, what is cutoff? Like, what are we dealing with here? And that's 6.5. That's 6.5 hours, which is close to 9:15. It's just let's call it 9:10 per kilometer. And so I know you don't want to be in the 6:25 window, but the point for me, I was like, nah, even on a bad day, you're going to do it. I Under 6 hours, so pretty close to the average, I think is absolutely doable. Just having a quick look through your training and where you are. And we've just got to, back to what I was saying a little bit earlier. We've got to build you up a little bit slower. You have to, when the down weeks come, you've got to take them. I think that's just really crucial for you. When the down weeks come, that's also, it's not just about your muscles, joints, ligaments. It's also about you refilling your tank. So in that week, you're going to carry on eating like you eat, because then by the end of the week, everything is back. Stores are good. Hopefully, you've provided enough protein. We've
Yeah,
fixed up as much of the damage as we can. So those, you just got to be a little bit more mindful, I guess, of recovery. The good news is that when you do that, you have recovered well. So and from, I don't think we have to avoid like a workout type. So do we need to be doing speed work and high interval, like high intensity sessions for you to finish New York? No. Should we do some of that kind of work? Yes, because we do want to keep you we want to keep your range of motion and your neural stuff firing, which is what those 3 exercises, that's really what they're doing, is they're just creating the mobility and the neural pathways for you to be able to do the things that you need to do. So those sessions, should they be a little bit easier? Yes, and we'll do that. And that will be so that we can do the longer runs. We will look at doing a watt bike session initially, and then you've just got to really keep a tab on kind of how you feeling through that process. But yeah, I mean, I really think you can do this, and you can do it without ruining yourself. Which, to be honest, that's actually more important for me. I'd hate for you to, like, absolutely drag yourself over that line.
yeah,
You've got very few positive memories from it, other than the fact that you ticked a box. I think we can get you there doing it so that it's hard, but a day that you can interact with the crowd. Remember what you did. Remember why you're doing it, and then also not have, the other side of this coin is, I don't want you then battling for the next 6 months to get, to be able to stay healthy and keep up the momentum of what you've done over the last 18 months. You must be able to take a 2-3 week break, but then be able to get back into like a 5K plan, enjoying yourself, and that's the point.
If you're over 50 and want to recover from sessions faster, run pain and injury free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join Lindsay and I for our upcoming Faster Beyond 50 Masterclass. In it, we'll show you how we helped a 70-year-old run a 47-minute, 18-second 10K, and how you can take those exact same principles and apply them in your training. Simply scan the QR code that's on screen right now, or click on the link in the description below to save your seat in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah. The last piece is the last piece has been the last piece you mentioned for me is incredibly important, because we all meet a couple of doom and gloom merchants in our lives, and I've had a couple of those people say, "Listen, you could do this marathon and ruin yourself forever," and I'm thinking, I wouldn't want to do that, because the sort of marathon is the marathon is just a signpost in a sort of lifelong journey for me. I come from a family that hasn't enjoyed the best health, and I'm a bit of the outlier, and I'm an outlier because of exercise. So I'm 68 now, and I'm currently, I don't know, running 40 kilometers a week. But if I look at all my health measures, training peaks, fitness, Garmin, VO2, all that stuff, you can argue about whether it's accurate or not, but it's all tracking the right way. So I've gone. Strangely, when I was a young guy, I was average to below average athlete, and now I'm 65. I'm outstanding, and the reason is because I'm still going. You've got to be in the game to improve, haven't you? And a lot of guys my age have given up. And I look around at some of my peers, and I've been to a couple too many funerals. And I think, I want running to be. I want to be doing it when I'm 78 as well. So I don't want this marathon to completely ruin me for months.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard.
Look,
hard's fine, but I don't want it to ruin me for months.
100%. So look, I'm a cross country guy, so I still run cross country, and there's a category for 80 to 85, and there are guys running, and that's one of my life goals. I'm still going to be doing cross country when I'm 80, 85. So no, but that is why this stuff is important to me, is just really keeping that stuff real, and and I think that's without you necessarily asking the question, I do kind of feel like that's the reading between the lines. It's like, I think that if you start the race on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd of November, I can't remember the exact date, you're going to finish.
Yeah.
But the question you're really asking us is, how sensible am I being to get there and do this? And we can do it sensibly. I think that's and that's important for me. Is that we do it sensibly, and that we do this for enjoyment. But I'm sitting here trying to think to myself when I've ever truly enjoyed a marathon, and I always come back to I always enjoy parts of it. I remember the good. I remember the good parts. So, and that's just what we want. There must be some good parts, and you must be able to finish that line and go, "This is awesome," and phone your family afterwards and tell them I did this. And yeah, exactly. So look, Steve, I know you can do this. I really do have enough information to make it happen. Brad might have some more questions for you, but I hope you've got a couple of questions for me.
Before that, if I can just add something, and this isn't a training thing, because obviously that's not my wheelhouse, Stephen. But just in listening to you talking and sort of where you're at from a headspace perspective, and is this sensible to do? Am I capable of doing it? And Lindsay, you could probably add in here too that obviously I've also come through, and it's so I love talking to bigger guys, Stephen. Like you 6'5", I'm 6'7". I'm about 30 kgs heavier than you, so I'm also definitely not built like a Kenyan marathon runner. That is for sure. So I can sort of feel, because I'm in the same sort of like body type, definitely not built for running. And marathons are hard. But one thing, and you would have known this doing Ride London, on the day, in a race like New York Marathon or Ride London, the crowd is, and the atmosphere and the vibe, I always joke that like you could take somebody off their sofa and put them on a bicycle or put them in the New York Marathon, and they'll make it. They're going to struggle, but they'll probably make it halfway just because it's so exciting and it's like really so. Like the atmosphere and the vibe counts for at least a third of the race. You don't want to necessarily suffer for that third, but when you are doing a half marathon training plan as you are now, and where your head is at in that training plan, it's the peak part of that half marathon training. So you're tired, you should feel a little bit fatigued. Obviously, we build in recovery there, but it is normal to be questioning, man, I need to do double this from a race distance perspective for New York. Am I capable of doing it? And the short answer is yes. So you're supposed to feel that way in this training block. You're supposed to feel a little bit tired, but you can definitely do it. The question is how sensibly, as Lindsay said, do we get you there? Because as Lindsay said, he doesn't have a doubt that you can do this. I also know that you can do this. You're doing the work. You've been sensible in the build-up. It's not like you've decided at 68 that you're going to get off the sofa having done no training whatsoever in your life at all. You're going to go and run the New York Marathon. So it is definitely doable. And yeah, I think it's just making sure that we get you there. So I don't know if you've got any questions for Linz. I know, Linz, you are.
So, Brad, just to round that comment off, it's actually so true, and we forget about this stuff. So the big race in South Africa, the Comrades Marathon, 55 miles, 89 kilometers. To be honest, it's a very similar process. People who've never done an ultramarathon before will do their marathon, which they have to do in qualifying. And that's the exact thought process. It's like, okay, wow, I just did 42Ks. How am I going to do that again? So again, just to also understand that actually you're going through a lot of normal things. But of course it is different when you are 45 versus 65 plus. It is different because the question feels different and it does have different consequences. I think that's also part of the what we got to go through.
Yeah, that's decent mind reading from Brad, because when I had me sort of feeling sorry for myself day a couple of weeks ago, and told a couple of friends I wasn't going to do it. I couldn't do it. It's because I'd done this day. And I run around some magnificent areas. I run around places like Hyde Park and Regent's Park in London. So I run around the Royal Parks, and my finish is past Buckingham Palace, down Pall Mall, and then there's a set of steps, and I sit on the steps, and I sat on the steps. I thought, whoa, half marathon. There's no physical way. The human body can't go in 3 months from this feels hard to doing twice it. And on that day, I thought, there's no logic to my body will suddenly be able to do double what it's done today. And that was my sort of, I was going to say that, that was the day I thought, you're kidding yourself, mate.
No, that is so normal. If you think about it, like when you go from 5Ks to 10Ks, where you've just run your first 5, you think there's no ways I can do double that. Never. But then a few weeks or a couple of months later, you end up running 10. You go, that's cool. And then you start thinking, I'm going to run a half marathon. And then you run a 10K and you go, there's no ways I can do double that. And this process is exactly the same. It's, the human body is amazing. Like, I mean, if you think what you've bounced back from over the last 18 months to be in the position you are in now, where you are less than 100 days away from the New York Marathon. And yes, you are having doubts, but I mean, it's just phenomenal. Of course you can. Like, it's just, absolutely.
Yeah, the human mind is incredible. When I got knocked off in Ride London, I was led on the ground, and I was smashed to pieces, and I was feeling like I was suffocating. It was because the punctured lung was filling up with blood and fluid. And when I was on the ground, I just thought, I'm going to be really positive here. And then from that second, even from the first ambulance person and everyone helping me, I was polite to everyone I met all through my recovery. The woman who came in and cleaned the hospital ward and everything, and even when I thought, man, I could die here. I'm down here. I actually thought if I don't get up, I'm gonna die. But I also some part of your human mind goes, be positive here. And from that second, even when I was still wrecked on the ground, I thought I'm going to be positive. And And actually, I made a bet with myself 2 days later. I said, I'm going to ride a bike within 2 months. And 2 months later, I got on my bike and rode it down to meet some friends. But this sort of bit of grey matter up here, yeah, it can do a heck of a lot. It can make the body do a lot of things. He says now talking himself into being able to do a marathon. The human mind's pretty hardcore.
No, and you're going to go, Stephen, you're going to go through patches, just like you did with your recovery from the accident, where you go through patches where you go, man, this is so hard. I don't know if I'm ever going to be the same again. And you've had that on a bike where you're going, this is so hard. Like, I don't know if I can finish this thing. And you're going to have the same moments in the build up to New York Marathon and during the race. And the good news is those bad patches don't last forever. The bad news is the good patches don't last forever either. That's the truth of it. So
no, that's the big cycling thing. Actually, when I went and did the New York Grand Fondo on the bike, people always go, well, New York's flat, isn't it? And actually, if you go out into New York State, it's pretty gnarly. That was a rough old day on the bike. I was on the bike for 7 hours. Actually, it was hard. And you're right, during it, at some stage, you thought, I'm cooked here, and then half an hour later, you're thinking, yeah, I've got this.
I can win this thing.
I'll probably do Tour de France next year. I'm probably going to go for it.
I love it, Stephen. Have you got any specific questions for Linz while we've got you on here, or does that help you for now?
No, that's really helpful. As you know, I'm doing a separate coaching session with Lindsay anyway. I did one with Nikki right at the start, and I found every so often just coming back and booking one of these sort of 30, 45 minutes with one of the coaches at Coach Paris. It's a great reset for me. So I don't really want to nerd out in massive detail on a podcast, but yeah, I'm good. It's been extremely helpful. In fact, one of the biggest things is that you're 6'7" and weigh a lot more than me, and you've done one. So I'm game on now.
Yeah, and it's funny, Stephen, because I mean, Lindsay was talking about Comrades. So I ran Comrades at the beginning of June, so 56 miles, 90 Ks. And the mental side of it is exactly what you're experiencing. Like when I ran a marathon in February, I was like, there's no ways I can do double this. And then it was like, run an ultra. I was like, oh, I've got to go and do a bit more. And how am I going to do this? So it's so normal. You are where you're supposed to be. And yeah, you just got to keep going. And I just want to acknowledge you and thank you. You've been amazing in our forum just with regards to sort of like the honesty and rawness of posting things like this. It's not like often people want to portray that everything's going swimmingly well and it's easy to, and that's not the case. Like we all go through struggles. So I want to acknowledge you and thank you for posting that in the forum, because I think without you knowing it, you're helping so many people who are going through exactly the same thing that you're going through right now. So yeah, thank you.
I've had a tremendous, coming up to a year with you guys, and the forum has been tremendous. And I think as humans, we're all, a lot of people are very prone to try and portray a perfect life on social media, and I'm the opposite. I always figure if you show a bit of vulnerability, what actually happens is people arrive with a bit of help. So if you show a bit of vulnerability, people don't tend to throw stones. They'll come along and say, well, have you thought about this? And that's what you get out of just being honest in any forum, really.
I love that. Stephen, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm sure this call is going to help tons of people as well. So we look forward to catching up again soon.
All right. Thanks very much, guys. Speak soon. Cheers.